I know that it's 2023. That's not the point of this video. Hey Hodies, welcome back to my channel. My name is hautemesstom and thank you so much for clicking on this video. Today what we're going to be doing is we're going to take a look back at my August 2022 purchases 1 year later and see if those purchases were ultimately worth it. Were they good purchases? What have I learned since that I made those purchases? If you happen to be new to my channel, hi, welcome. My channel is mostly about loving my makeup collection as it is while being, critical, cynical about new makeup releases, and trying to be very discerning about what I bring into my makeup collection. I'm now at a point in my channel where I do sometimes buy things specifically for review, and sometimes I do receive PR and I will review those items as well. But I really do try to keep my collection and what I keep around very curated because I want to use and love all of the things that I keep around. So if that kind of content sounds good to you, I would love to have you subscribe. Make sure you like this video, and I am on patreon.com if you would like to support me there. There's no pressure to. You are welcome to just continue watching, liking, and commenting. That's a really great way to support me. But I would like to thank my current patrons. You are the absolute best. And I also have merch. You can check that out down below. And I might be working on some more things. Maybe. When I make a purchase for myself, it's a little bit different now. It's like harder to discern, and I've been very honest about this as my channel has continued to grow and brands have started sending me things, which is a really hard place to figure out how to navigate. And I don't know that I'm doing it perfectly, but I'm trying my best. So I'm just being honest about it whenever I do talk about these things. But whenever I make a purchase for myself, like something that I'm very interested in, that might not be like something that my audience is interested in, or it might not even be a new product. Like I do still make those purchases, like just makeup that I'm very interested in because I love makeup and I'm interested in makeup, but I do try to be very discerning. And last year I did like a very strict budget that I was very public about, like how much I was spending on each thing. Again, this year my relationship with that is a little bit different, but I never spend more than my means whenever I'm doing makeup reviews. At this point, I still am very, very discerning about that, about what I choose to review, like how much I'm spending. That's still something that I'm cognizant of. I'm just not doing it as publicly as I once was. So like this series will likely continue on until next year, but you won't have seen the budgeting or the numbers already. My hope is that with every purchase that I make, or every time I get to interact with makeup in any capacity, even if it is through PR, is to learn more about my preferences to make better purchases in the future and help weed out whenever I see new makeup releases, like what I think might actually be good for me and what's not. So over the course of the past couple of years, I've learned that I don't like full coverage foundation. I don't really even like medium coverage foundation. My favorite is light to medium. And like, obviously there's a time and place for full coverage foundation. Even for me, like sometimes I do want a little bit more coverage than I normally want, but it's not always what I want. So like, I've learned that I like that. I like things that have blurring qualities. I like certain ingredients. So whenever new makeup releases happen, when I see a new foundation launch, I like make sure I read enough about it to think maybe that's something that I would want. And I never try to have more than 4 foundations in my makeup collection at any given time. Now, with adding testing foundations to that, that's a little bit different. But the 4 that I keep in my foundation drawer, like there should never be more than 4. In fact, right now I have only 3. I've only had 2 for a while, and I don't think I need 4, but I certainly don't want to keep around more than 4. So I try to be very discerning about what stays and what can I pass on to someone who's going to love it more than I do. So those are all of the things I'm thinking about. So reflecting on my purchases from last year, again, I know that it's 2023. Every time I do one of these videos, someone comments that it's not the year that I'm talking about. We're reflecting on last year's purchases. The reason we're reflecting on last year's purchases is because it's been a year. Are these items of makeup still in my makeup collection? Have they stood the test of time? If they are still in my makeup collection, I'll like to reflect on how much I use them or how useful I think they are. Or did I declutter that item already? That's what we're looking at. Were these purchases good enough to stand the test of time a year later? I think another thing that's important, I am trying to curate my collection even more than I ever have at this point. So like I want my makeup collection to make sense to me, especially as I do this for work. And while it's not my full-time job, this is work. Like this is work that I put time and effort into. What is the makeup that I want to use? Like that for me, whenever I want to wear makeup, not on camera, just for me, or just to go out, or just for a concert, like, those what is the makeup that gets to stay? And while I still do have a lot of makeup for any singular person to have, even what's in my curated collection, but I am trying to downsize that. So it is likely that a lot of the stuff that I end up talking about, I don't have in my collection anymore, but let's get into it. I bought 2 things last August, and I remember this because Labor Day happened and I spent so much money on makeup last year. So next month's check-in, or next month's reflection, is going to be like a lot more than this month's reflection. But I bought 2 things, one of which is still in my collection and one is not. The first thing on my list was the Westman Atelier pressed powder. I did a full review just on this powder. If you want to check it out, you can check it out up in the cards, or I'll try to remember to link it down below. Oftentimes I forget to link it in either place. It's just... So the Westman Atelier powder, I believe, is about $75. I made my first purchase through Credo to buy that, so I think I had a 10 or 15% off discount code. So it ended up being like $69 some dollars. It must have been a 10% off discount code. And I remember thinking that I wasn't wowed by it. Now, I am not unfamiliar with paying upwards of $80 for a powder. This is the Chantecaille Perfect Blur powder. I believe this runs for $80. Now, this is from limited edition packaging. I'm working my way through this. It's my favorite powder. Like, if I didn't like this, there would not be pan. Like, I use this almost every time I do my makeup application, unless I'm testing another powder. Like, this is always, it's always in the mix. Not unfamiliar with paying that much money for a powder. The reason that I'm willing to spend this much money on a powder is because this powder really does what it says it's supposed to for me, and I like the way it sets my makeup. I like the way it looks on my skin, so it's like a product that I very much see the value in. And I also have been working on this for more than 2 years at this point, so it's taking me a long time to get through it. I think all of that to be said, it's always really important when you're considering my usage of a product. I don't wear makeup every day, and I do try to rotate through my makeup. So that's like 2 years of usage, and I mostly focus it on the center of my face, so it's not like I'm using all over my face. It's like a very specific powder, right? Like, anyway, me getting 2 years out of an $80 product is a lot different than you getting a handful of months out of an $80 product, and I think that's important to keep in mind. That context is very key here. Anyway, so not unfamiliar with spending upwards of $80 on a powder. I remember just being pretty underwhelmed with the powder. Now, I've heard people complain more than I complained, and I also know people who love it a lot more than I loved it. My friend Rachel Ellen Rose, she really swears by this powder. It's like her ride or die powder. She loves it. My friend Kackie, she really kind of has disdain for it. I remember using it and just being like, yeah, it does that. I don't understand like the hydrating properties of it. And it was weird because it was like, the powder always kind of like felt wet, and mine didn't hard pan, but it got these little, for lack of a better phrasing, like drops of hard pan, but it wasn't like a hard pan. It was like something was doing. Something was doing. I don't even know what to call it. It like maybe blurred a little bit, but like I love something that feels like an Instagram filter whenever I'm powdering. Like that's how I want my powder to blur like that. And no matter how I use it, it didn't give me that. And I thought its setting qualities were subpar for someone who has oily skin. It definitely felt like a powder better suited for dry skin than I have. Now, that's not to say that I love matte skin. I don't. I just feel like the powder wasn't like, it did like nothing for my oily skin. I just feel like my oils broke through it pretty quickly, and then it just like kind of looked bad. Even on foundations that I know that I really enjoy. I had a very big problem with the component. Now, to hold that component, it's a lovely piece. Like, it's a lovely item to hold. Very weighted. Gorgeous to look at. Gorgeous to hold. That thing was damn near impossible for me to open. The magnet was so strong I couldn't open it, and the lip on the product wasn't big enough for me to like get the pads of my fingers in there to be able to open it. So I always had to shove my nail in it to open it. And as someone who likes to have their nails longer and paint their nails or have press-ons on, that's kind of a deal breaker for me, because powder is something you use nearly every time you do your makeup, depending on your skin type and how you like to do your makeup and how you like your makeup to look. But it's like, for a lot of people, it's a pretty common process. And if it's that hard for me to open, and I don't have dexterity issues in my hand, I can't imagine someone with dexterity issues with their hands being able to open it. And I don't know if I'm just weak because I've never heard anyone else give this feedback, but I thought the component was stupid hard to open. And I hated that. Like, I hated that. Like, it made me not want to use it because it was just like, I don't want to risk chipping my nail today. Now, my nails are bare right now. This is like not a very good example of a time for me having my nails. But at the time, especially when I was using it, I was painting my nails all the time. And I was always like, well, this will be the time. This will be the time that I lose my nail. I don't know that it ever actually chipped in the time that I was testing it out, but I decluttered that. It wasn't worth $75 for me. I don't know that Westman Atelier is accessible through department stores and Sephora as some other brands. It's also a powder. I still feel like you have to like kind of take it home to experience it. To me, it's not worth the risk of trying it to see if you would like it if you already have a powder that you really, really like. Now, if you're exploring powders and you have dry skin, it might work for you. Like Rachel really loves it, but it's like $75 to $80 is like a pretty big risk when it comes to a powder. And I just don't think it's worth that. It wasn't worth that for me. I don't have it in my collection anymore. It wasn't a good powder for me. And yeah, do I feel like it was a waste of money? No, because I do remember being pretty intentional about that purchase, and I did not buy it right away. I think it launched a couple months before I got my hands on it because it wasn't in my budget at the time, because I bought the Izumaya stuff earlier in the summer, and that was what most of my budget went to in the summer, was like Izumaya. And the Izumaya stuff, like, for the most part worked out for me. Like, that was a pretty good purchase. So then whenever I did have it in my budget to buy the Westman Atelier powder, then I did. If you read what the brand is telling you about the product, and let's say that you're using that as your touchstone, and a lot of times when things are new, that is the touchstone that you have. And so I read what it was supposed to do, and it was like not super mattifying, was supposed to blur the skin, make your skin look really good, be good for your skin, etc., etc. I think all of those are good qualities. Those are all sound like things that I would like in a powder. And some of the influencers that I do watch really got on with it. Like, I like Michelle Wong, and she really liked it. At that time, I'm not sure that I was watching Kackie's content yet. I think I was like on the precipice of starting to watch Kackie's content a lot more. But I think if Kackie had been in my repertoire with the powder, I probably actually wouldn't have bought it, because she like was pretty clear that she didn't like it and whenever I started watching her. Did I do a perfect job making sure that it was a good purchase for me before I bought it? No. But I also remember that I wanted to buy it because my viewers were like interested in it. So it was kind of like I was interested in it, my viewers were interested in it. It seemed like something that would be good. I think those three things are good enough reason for me to have purchased it, to try it out. I'm not mad that I did. I think it would be one of those things that I was always curious about if I didn't. And like right now, I'm like wondering what brand I want to do now that I have finished makeup forever. And like Westman Atelier does come to mind. I haven't decided on that, by the way. I was just like, Westman Atelier is a brand that I probably will revisit. But one thing that I won't have to do whenever I revisit Westman Atelier down the line to try, like, you know, try the brand out again, or like in totality, like I have some things from Westman Atelier that I already enjoy. I won't have to buy the powder because I already know how I feel about it. So that saves me a couple dollars on that review. That wraps up for that product. Let's move on to the next one, which is still in my collection. It is the ROEN 1111 Quad. So here's a close-up look at it. The ROEN Quad. The story behind me getting this is actually pretty interesting. So I did a couple of videos last summer. One was makeup brands that I am not interested in trying at all, and then the other one was makeup brands I'm very interested in trying. Now, in the video where I was talking about brands I was interested in trying, I mentioned that I want to try ROEN, but mostly because I want to try these quads. In my comment section, one of my lovely, lovely subscribers mentioned that they go on sale on BoxyCharm, I don't understand BoxyCharm. I'm personally very against beauty boxes like that. And it's okay if you're into them, you're allowed to love them. I don't think they're like nefarious. I just think that they're very repetitious for people who are very into makeup, and I would rather take like the $30, $40, $50 a month, $60 a month that it is, and just like buy one product that I'm interested in as opposed to gambling it for more products. And as someone who is trying to be more cognizant and curate my collection, the idea of getting 6 full-size random products that I don't get to choose all of them is like a nightmare to me. I don't know how BoxyCharm works anymore, and I never really did, but I know that they do these sales because I watch Lauren Mae Beauty, and I know that sometimes you don't have to be a subscriber of BoxyCharm to participate in the sales. Literally right around the time I posted that video, maybe like a week or two after, someone DM'd me, one of my subscribers DM'd me and said, hey, they're doing a Boxy sale. The ROEN 1111 quad is on sale for $16. So I was able to buy this through BoxyCharm, which was really cool because that's much less than it costs at full price. That's the thing, is that the ROEN quads were like something that I wasn't 100% sure I was going to like, but I knew that if I never scratched the itch, I would always wonder. And the 1111 quad was always the one that spoke to me the most. So I was able to purchase it for $16. And then beyond that, after that, one of my lovely subscribers who doesn't like the ROEN formula sent me all 3 of their ROEN shadows. I kept the ones that I did like, and then I passed on the ones that I didn't care for, because just color story wise. So then I've done a whole review on the ROEN quads. I don't use these all the time. If you've ever checked my description boxes or like that pinned comment to see what I wear, very rarely will you find this in that part of my video. These get much more play whenever I am just visiting, I'm hanging out with friends. When I'm hanging out with friends and I want to like put a little bit of effort into it, but I don't want to like do full glam, I think of these are very good like brunch eyeshadows for me. These are not a perfect formula. The imperfection of the formula is why I like them. These crease on me pretty badly, but it's an editorial creasing, unlike a balding kind of creasing, and I think it's because there's just so much sparkle in them, especially this shade Situation. This one, that's my favorite one. That's my favorite shade. But I like all of these, and this is a nice little, like, you can put this all over the eye for like a nice little smoky situation. I love that they crease on me, and I love that you can just kind of tap them out. But even when you tap them out, it's not like they go back to 0. It's not like they go back to perfect. It kind of like blends out the sparkle and makes I love that about them. I love that about them, but I think that would be very frustrating for a lot of people. I don't think this is a good product for everyone, but is it a good product for me? Yes. And whenever I tell you that, if I'm not testing something, like testing a new eyeshadow, because like that's something that I'll do a lot too. Like if I'm hanging out with friends, I'll be like, we're testing some things. So if things go awry on my face, just let me know. You know, sometimes I'll do that. But if I'm not testing a new eyeshadow product, which I'm not always testing a new eyeshadow, I am today. And you can look at the pinned comment to figure out what that is if you're interested. These are just like whenever I'm hanging out with friends, eyeshadows. And also they're really good at night too. Like there are some of the darker shades are really good at night. Also, they're really reflective. I think they're really good for like low lighting because you get all that texture. Like, I love texture. I mean, on my eyes. I love just like beautiful, enriched, like an enriched dough, an enriched texture of sparkle on my eyes. Like, I love that. That's what I live for. And the ROEN shadows provide that. In reflection, was this purchase worth it? Yes. I know. If my subscriber had never sent me them and I had never purchased this, I would still be sitting here in front of you wondering if I liked the ROEN eyeshadows. I would always wonder. So I needed to do, like, even if this was something that I didn't like and decluttered, I still think it would have been a worthwhile purchase because I just needed to know. I just needed to know. I do use them quite a bit in my personal time. Again, not so much on camera. They do work on camera, especially if I want to do a video, but I don't like the video isn't about the application of the makeup. Maybe I'm doing like a commentary video. This is like also something that I'll wear in those videos. So yeah, like these are really low maintenance, really easy, and I really like them for that. I like how they crease. I really like these. These have been a worthwhile investment and purchase for me. I like them. I bought them because I was interested in them and I needed to scratch the itch. I think that's a good reason. The usage of them. I do use them quite a bit, not always on camera, but I do use them in my personal life a lot, so it scratches that too. You know, we check that box off, and like it's survived, right? Like every time I do a declutter, I'm like, this doesn't need to go anywhere. I do like this and I do use this. So I do think it was a worthwhile purchase. Kind of to go back through, it's like, while I didn't keep both of these items in my collection, I did like declutter the Westman Atelier. I think both of them were things that were good purchases for why I purchased them. I don't think that necessarily just because something didn't work out for you makes it a bad purchase. Because if you're taking the time before you purchase it to try your hardest to make sure that it's a good decision, I think that's okay. If you buy something and it doesn't work out for you. It's did I just buy this for no reason? Like if you can't reflect and be like, okay, I just bought this because it was really hyped up, not because I, stopped for a second and said that eyeshadow color story is really different from what I have. It's going to add value to my collection. That color story is a lot like a lot of the color stories that I use a lot. So is it going to add value? Like that, the way that foundation is being described, the ingredients in that foundation are things that work for me. Like if you're just buying it for the hype, I don't know that that's a good purchase. Again, the reasons why we all may purchase, what that might be for you might be different than what it is for me. Yeah, right? Because I have this channel. Sometimes I'm buying things for the channel and that might be a good purchase for me because it's for the channel, or for the mostly for the purposes of the channel and not so much for myself. So like, you know, it's sometimes really hard to break that down, but I think that it's always worth reflecting on purchases that you make like this. And I think it's always good to like have an idea of how much you're spending on makeup, whether or not you're like always budgeting it down to the wire and sharing that information with the internet. Anyway, that wraps it up for me. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you're not already subscribed, would love to have you subscribe. Again, Patreon and merch, both available to you, but not required. I'd appreciate a like, and let me know, did you buy anything last August? Do you keep track like I do? What did you buy last August? Do you still have it? Or just tell me about something that you purchased recently that either is or is not working out for you. Do some of this reflection down in the comments. I would love to hear it. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in a video very shortly. Remember to follow your haute, and you will find me. Bye-bye. Oh, the friends, oh, friends.